Hi, I'm Matt with Schematical, and today with me on CTO Coffee Hour is Dominic DeMarco, as always. How's it going,
Salute.
Dom? Salute.
It's another beautiful day in paradise.
Wonderful. Today we're going to be talking about an interesting experiment that Anthropic did, where they separated out developers into two categories: new, aspiring, young developers, and they had them try to code and with AI. Some of them were AI assisted, the other half were not AI assisted.
And this
And
is 52 mostly junior software engineers, according to the study, the paper, whatever you want to call it.
yeah, so yes, it was an interesting little study that, as expected, I guess I'm going to pull up the study here just to make sure I'm quoting it accurately here.
And in this study, I mean, we started, but we stopped talking before this because we wanted to save it for being on here. Confirms some of the things that I have suspected about AI assisted coding, or maybe not confirms, but quantifies, thus confirming some of the assumptions that I would have had, and maybe perhaps some of the real world experiences you have had with people using. A junior using AI isn't quite vibe coding, but if a junior goes too far, it's definitely vibe coding.
Well, I had this conversation earlier today in a mastermind group. Is there's a very distinct line between AI assisted coding and vibe coding. In my opinion, that's just my opinion. Vibe coding means you set it and forget it and just trust it works. And AI assisted coding means that you have some help where AI might suggest things that it's probably beyond autocomplete, but you know every line of code that's going live and you review it before sending it. That's my thoughts on it. So, and that's as we're getting to this, let's start off with the basics. Okay, so if you look at it and you zoom out, the scores were the AI group averaged 50% on the quiz, compared to 67% of the hand. 67% of the hand coding group,
Oh,
which
so
is still both pretty
it
bad
should be for the
scores. But
quiz. Is these developers were given a task with a Python library, and they were told to perform a task. They could, or those that had AI could use it different ways, however they chose to. And then after they performed the task, they were given a quiz, a comprehension quiz on what they did, just to set the table a little bit on what that quiz was for. So after they completed this task, two groups, control group with and without AI, um, what was the score that they achieved on the comprehension results afterwards?
AI assisted group averaged, and that's key because it's averaged 50%. And there's going to be a subsection of that, or an asterisk in a minute, compared to 67% in the hand coding group.
Neither one great.
No, but the equivalent of nearly 2 letter grades. I mean, it is a significant amount, but it's not blowing my mind either. But then what's really interesting, well, I should say that the AI assisted group did go slightly faster on the tasks, but we're
Marginally
talking,
faster.
yeah,
2 minutes.
not really a crazy amount there. But what happened is the AI assisted group ended up splitting into two subcategories, and they call it the low scoring interaction patterns, and they identified three patterns. One is AI delegations, where you just basically, good luck AI, have fun.
Vibe coded. That, I mean, AI delegation is vibe coding, right? Like, hey, write this for me and just
complete
spit it out.
delegation, absolutely, yeah. Progressive AI alliance, which means participants in this group started by asking one or two questions, but eventually delegated all code. And iterative AI
Vibe
debugging.
coding again.
Yep. And iterative AI debugging, participants in this group relied on AI to debug or verify their code. They asked more questions, but relied on it to solve problems. So basically, they relied on the AI to do the debugging part. The higher scoring patterns, which scored a 65% or higher, which means, and the other ones were just 67%. So this is pretty good.
Which is very, very close to where the non-AI group ended up. And this is,
that's what I'm saying.
Dare I say, how junior developers or people using new libraries or packages should use AI.
Well, I'm not going to go should or shouldn't here. I'm going to try and just be objective and look at it from the data. I'm
Well,
learning
data
from
says
this.
this is how they should use AI.
Okay, there you go. I could see that. I'm still wondering about the scores, but either way. So they had 3 patterns as well: generation, then comprehension. I can't talk today. Participants in this group first generated code and then manually copied or pasted the code into their work. So that sounds to me like Stack Overflow. I type something in, like, this is how I used Stack Overflow for the past 2 decades. If I was doing something with a new language or something, is I'd Google it or whatever, or I'd ask a question on Stack Overflow, and then I'd copy and paste, some of it, the answers into my code, and then adjust it to fit. So that seems like a pattern I'm very familiar with. There's hybrid code explanation as the second pattern, which participants in this group composed hybrid queries in which they asked for code generation along with explanations of the generated code. So that helped. That's good.
Well, that's interesting, because that's only a slight shift from generate the code to generate the code and explain what it's doing to me.
Well, and it didn't say if this one debugged on their own or how that worked. So that's an interesting one. But yeah, at least if they bothered to ask for the explanation, I hope they read it. I'm guessing. That's just a thought. And then the last one was conceptual inquiry. Participants in this group only asked conceptual questions and relied on their improvements understanding to complete the task. Although this group encountered many errors, they independently resolved them. On average, this mode was the fastest among the high scoring patterns. So they sound like they did their own debugging, but they basically just asked for some concepts, which sounds somewhat like the first one in some ways, I guess, without any code. It's just, what are you thinking here? So interesting.
Well, no, the first group was generation, then comprehension. So they were still using the code, where the third group, and this had the most people in it as well, just asked hypothetical conceptual questions and then wrote their own code, which, if you're a junior, makes sense. Now, if you're a more experienced software developer, I could see it, write me a function that does X, Y, and Z, and then reviewing that. I could see that. But as a junior, pressing keys is the most important thing you can do to get muscle memory insofar as writing code and learning best practices and getting things done.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. There's keys being one way to describe what you're designing, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
I mean, it's like any skill. I mean, you couldn't expect a gymnast to get exponentially better watching videos of the last X hours of their practice or watching their nearest competitors. Can it contribute to their improvement? 100%. But without time on the bars, watching the videos is useless.
Yeah, my nuance was more like drills versus just trying the skill. But you're correct. I'm not disagreeing with you there. Yeah. It's such a subtle nuance I was pointing out there. It doesn't even matter. But either way, yeah, this kind of tells us what we already knew. But basically, I hate. I'm not a purist where it's like, oh, AI bad, or no coding or anything like that. But it's just interesting to see the dynamics of complete delegation to AI without bothering to comprehend any of it, versus using it like Stack Overflow, like I've used Stack Overflow for the past couple decades. So
you wonder how many of these answers actually partially originate from Stack Overflow.
I mean, I'd say a huge amount. I don't know if you saw the graph of Stack Overflow usage, and it like goes up and up and up and up and up and up and until like 2023, and then just crashes. It's like,
wow. No, I didn't see that. No, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so you've been working in a new language on a new project that we've already talked about. Shameless plug, Tech Debt, the video game. Check it out. But you've used
AI/game.
Much better plug. You've used AI coding assistants because you're in an environment and in a language where, I mean, you're competent in many languages, but it's not your core language. It's not where you spend a lot of time. Or you have
it's not even the language, it's the Unity framework and everything else too that I'm not as versed in. So yeah. But yeah,
how would you say you use it based upon these archetypes? Now, you're not a junior dev, granted, but there's archetypes here.
I would say these archetypes, when I first started on tech debt, I used it for ideation. So that'd be the conceptual inquiry a little bit. I did let it go a little nuts and start generating stuff, but that was still like in the ideation phase. As I refine it, I use it less and less, mainly because the code base has gotten rather complex and it seems to struggle if I give it anything but very specific parameters to follow. Part of that is
on
like
on
if
a
you,
on a function level. Is that about right? Versus a
I
package
try
level.
and delegate it, or yeah, not relegate, whatever, limit it to specific functions right now because it breaks stuff very easily and
Mhm.
quickly if you give it full reign. So I basically pass in what needs to be passed in and say, hey, do some calculations and figure out what the z is supposed to be on this one, the z index or whatever. So it's interesting. So as opposed to the internet, when I'm building like a web page, I can give it a tool call to take a snapshot of the screen, and that's been nice if I was doing any web design because I am not a designer by any means. Um, but with Unity and stuff, I don't have a great way to pass it the screen state, which is interesting.
Well,
So it
and
doesn't know what's going on the screen or in the game, but it can look
but
at the code.
could you also imagine though? I mean, thinking about that, if you say, "Hey, I want a website just like this, but I want different colors and the header to be taller or whatever it might be." Think about how many tens of millions of websites HTML have been scraped. So we can look at so many different things and can find so many similar websites. I can see that being just based upon the sheer amount of data involved and the fact that, dare I say, HTML isn't a programming language, it's a markup language. So you don't need the same context awareness of everything else that's happening in the code. Of course, it's going to do better at that. Of course, it's going
Mhm.
to be easier. It's much more writing a paper than it is um, formulating your PhD thesis and then writing the paper.
Yeah, yeah. What's and it's just with the web page one, you're right, absolutely right. It's been trained on tons of HTML. It's easy to come
Mhm.
by. Um, and but it's just the challenge there is I can't feed it state. It doesn't know,
Mhm.
like if it's like, hey, play the game. It can't actually play the game. It can look at the web page kind of, I mean, look at
Mhm.
the HTML for the web page and take some semblance of shots, but it really without paying like a image to text model or something like that, a bunch to try and take snapshots of it. It doesn't have a great way of actually comprehending how the game is played. So it's got limited use when I'm doing this. On
Mhm.
the plus side, it seems to know the APIs better than me. So like what happens if I find something where I needed to write a function and what would take me probably three different Google, searches, three different Stack Overflow pages, if I can keep it condensed to the specific area, it can spit out that very quickly. So I basically do one call to the AI instead of three calls to Stack Overflow or the
Mhm.
API docs, and it gets me most of the way there. But then I have to massage it. But at least I know the three
Mhm.
functions I would have had to look up elsewise. So
Well,
that's
in
been handy.
in either one of those approaches, it's essentially, dare I say, giving you is a skeleton or an outline, whether you get it from AI or whether you get it from Stack Overflow, that you're copying, pasting, massaging, debugging, and
Mhm.
then testing.
Yeah, man. I hope the people at Stack Overflow got paid.
Hmm.
Yeah, I haven't been using it a ton. What did I do? I did something this morning. I needed some.
But it's
Yeah,
interesting that the fact that you're not using it, you used it to acclimate and familiarize yourself. And the more familiar you got in the environment with Unity, with the programming language, etc., the less you relied upon it. Same with Stack Overflow. You're not going to use it every day. If you're starting something new with a new platform, a new API, a new package, a new anything, of course you're going to use Stack Overflow a whole lot more. Of course you're going to ask a lot more questions.
here's I'm
So it's
just
a
coming to
shortcut.
this.
It's acting like all it is for you anyways and your usage patterns.
Yeah, nice. And I'm coming to the realization it's basically as if I could feed in my code as context to Google or Stack Overflow. And so it's not only
Mhm,
just like Google, you type in your little search and that's all the information it knows, whatever letters you type in there.
mhm,
But here it can look at the SDK, or I guess the API on my machine. It could look at a couple different classes and it can kind of feed that in there to make it fit, which is kind of an
mhm.
interesting dynamic. So, but yeah, keeping it.
Okay, so that context sensitive awareness is actually interesting because I'm flashing back to something that happened on a project we worked on together 4-ish years ago now, I think. And that was we were
Guess
working
might have
on
been one.
mobile applications.
Yep.
And this is when the M series Max came out and the M1 came out, and I bought the M1, and I was searching because it was still, things were not fully supported yet insofar as code builds, or at least not well documented nor much talked about on Stack Overflow. And every single query I had to do to whatever site, comma M1 to make sure it was on the right architecture.
Mm-hmm. I can see that. Yeah. Man, we got a little bit off course there, but that's good. But yeah, we're getting towards the end of it. I'm trying to think if we got any updates on tech debt. I'll have a write up.
So here's the key that came out of the summary, that how someone used AI influenced how much information they retained. The participants who showed stronger mastery used AI assistance not just to produce code, but to build comprehension while doing so, whether by asking follow-up questions, requesting explanations, or posing conceptual questions while coding independently. It's a tutor.
You can use it. It is how you use it. It's a tool like anything else. So you could, you could use it you could use a shovel to hit someone over the head with, or you could use it to, dig a ditch or something like that. So, I think the same thing could be said about this. I mean, you can use the internet to binge watch mind rot all day, or you could use the internet to research interesting things. I mean, you could probably say the same thing about going to the library and reading comics versus reading
the encyclopedia or learning a new skill. I mean, the internet will give you exactly what you ask from it, whether that be brain rot videos or whether that be videos around a new skill that you're looking to acquire or something you're looking to get better at. Or I'll be honest, I use it a lot for interesting recipes as well. There's some really good cooks on some YouTube shorts.
Oh yeah. I will say one thing. I would love to see the same study or similar studies done by someone who's not selling shovels for the internet, the AI gold rush right now. So,
well, who else has, anybody could do this study, sure, but I think it's interesting that they did release this when it doesn't look bad upon Claude Code, but at the same time, it doesn't make it look like the end all be all, it's going to solve all of your problems either. It points out that, hey, this is just a tool. We're not the solution. We're just another tool in the box.
I'm giving points for that. I'll definitely give them points that they released that it's not, a perfect situation. But at the same time, I'd like to see more of these studies, I guess, see where it goes.
No, good.
I get the impression they didn't see these patterns ahead of time coming. So I'm wondering if you ran the study again and you were looking for the patterns, a bit more. You set it up trying to draw those boxes earlier, that you'd get more clear results there too. So, and I mean, this is only 52 people, so it's not really the perfect study by any means. It's a pretty small subsection.
It's big enough, I think, to have some amount of statistical relevance. But you're right. If it had been 10 or 15 or 20 people, okay, we can throw this study away. But would it be interesting to see perhaps something done at a university level where they have access to hundreds or thousands of CS students going, here's the entrance into CS, call it 201, because 101 is probably too early for it. Here's 100 students a year using this particular framework to do these things going into CS 201, because at least everybody's completed CS 101. Of course, there's going to be the people that have been coding since they were just coming out of diapers that are going to excel, but so be it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we'll start wrapping it up. But Dom, thanks for jumping on. You can find us at schematical.com, cloudwargames.com. If you're interested in Tech Debt, the video game, schematical.com/game should redirect you to the right spot. With that said, I'm Matt, and thanks for watching.
See you next time.